Hello and welcome to another video from
Absolute Game Off. Nerd!
All right, as promised, Mike from Lunch Money Comics and I are back. We're here to discuss episode 3. Pretty crazy to think real quick that after next week, we'll be halfway through season 2. Which is a shame because I'm loving it. So real quick, Mike, give us the high level thoughts on episode 3.
I loved it. I mean, the first two, not only the first 2 episodes, but the first season plus for 2 episodes has been a setup for the war happening. Hasn't happened yet, but we open up, we see the first salvo, between the Brackens and the Blackwoods of this is a real war. They're really fighting. And then you see by the end of the episode that Rhaenyra is ready to go. So, where there are any doubts of what's going to happen, we all know what's going to happen now. I think the war finally, we can say, is starting, and that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I was actually, when I think about that too, I was like, oh, wait, I guess they really technically haven't started like the war. There have been attacks, obviously, but more individualized. But now we have actual battle.
Yes.
So I'm actually I'm really interested to see how much of a battle we do see in this upcoming event. Because a lot of times they'll like do almost like they did in the very first scene where it's like, they show the face-to-face, and the next scene, it's like the battlefield strewn with bodies everywhere.
Right.
So, I from what I hear, I think we're going to get a huge battle scene next episode.
I think absolutely we're going to. I mean, again, reading the stories, there's no way they're going to cop out for a lot of these. They have the budget now to do it. It's not like the first couple seasons of Game of Thrones where they skimped and Tyrion blacks out and you don't see what happens. It's not going to be that at all, especially when they have the budget for dragons. Like really good CG budget. We're going to see some pretty awesome battles. I think they're going to be pretty epic. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
We're not going to spoil what happens in the battle this week. We will talk about it next week, obviously, but it should be some big stuff happening in it.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I am looking forward to that episode. This episode, though, I thought I thoroughly enjoyed it. However, I mean, it's easy to say, like, especially compared to episodes 1 and 2, it was like probably the slowest. And I imagine people would be like, if I had to rate the 3, this would be my least favorite, but that least favorite being like still a damn good episode, I thought.
Right. I actually liked it better than the second episode.
Oh, okay.
I felt like it moved a little bit more. You got the political machinations were really outlined. You see a lot with, Larys Strong. You see his uncle and stuff at Harrenhal. Yeah, you have those weird things at Harrenhal with Daemon.
I thought the Harrenhal stuff was excellent, though.
It was excellent. I was kind of scratching my head at first. I was like, man, this is a really long, drawn-out scene of him walking through the empty, haunted castle without really a payoff. But it actually makes sense showing sort of Daemon in this sort of what they're going for, sort of this him hallucinating a little bit and having these sort of supernatural things happen to him. I can see what they're doing there. And Harrenhal's a perfect setting for that. In the books, it is this gigantic haunted castle. It's pretty cool. I like how they did it. It was pretty creepy, though, honestly. That was that one scene. They got the original girl who plays Rhaenyra, who was fantastic.
Millie Alcock, yeah.
Yeah, Millie Alcock. That was a creepy scene.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, just like so in the head. Like,
oh, yeah. No, I really,
in the Harrenhal stuff, I really liked when he came to the throne room.
Yeah.
And like, because I mean, that's the very first scene of season 1 is in that exact same throne room. Obviously, it's not raining, it's not dark. It looks a lot nicer, but yeah, in that gloom, it just looks so just like kind of menacing. And I also really loved when he came out of the hallucination and he's at the weirwood, not necessarily, but when it panned out and you saw the weirwood on the edge of the castle next to the God's Eye, I thought it looked sick.
Yeah, exactly. And and there was Alice Rivers, who's a
when I first saw that, I thought Nettles. But then I listed a couple things like no Alice. I was like, oh yeah. I'd totally forgotten about her. So.
Yep. So she plays into the lore of A Song of Ice and Fire and all that. And but yeah, she had some very kind of scary words for Daemon, or like some sort of prophecy for him, which is quite interesting. Yeah, that'd be kind of neat.
That I will say that those words she gave made me wonder about like, wait, how far are they going to go in season 2? As we kind of discussed in our preview episode. Again, we won't say more than that, but because otherwise it's like, actually, I don't want to spoil it further than that. But that did make me.
I mean, but it isn't as straightforward as people think. My wife was asking me about it too, and it's not like, oh, something bad's gonna happen right there in the castle. I don't think don't worry about that. It's deeper. There's deeper meaning to those words that she said, and it's not what people expect. So.
Yeah. I also thought it was really cool, like with Rhaenyra sending Rhaena with the kids. They also then sent the eggs to Pentos, and you remember those are Dreamfire's eggs, and Daenerys got her eggs in Pentos, which were supposed to be Fire's eggs. However, there are 4 in that case. Obviously,
Right.
there was 3. So I wonder where the other.
I mean, do the colors match? I mean,
I think I haven't confirmed that, but it was like 4 Pentos Dreamfire.
Yeah, it's hinted at. Yeah, and I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember exactly if they spell what happens to the eggs either. But but yeah, that was all that. Again, a lot of more like political machinations. Again, just remind you of the familial bonds between these characters are very complicated. Not only do we have, in some cases like brothers marrying sisters, nieces marrying their uncles. We have very similar names. There's how many Aegons are, and obviously that was a point of the whole plot is multiple named Aegon people. But we have once again Rhaenyra talking to Rhaena, who is her stepdaughter, also her cousin, right?
Yes.
And we also have her aunt, who's Rhaenys. So just to be a little confusing for some people.
Yeah.
I honestly, I think if you can keep up, you're doing great so far. Don't worry about the name so much.
Yeah, I thought Rhaenys was a badass in this episode. Like I loved when she was like, I will remind you that my grandsire was the great conciliator, and he lasted longer than Aegon the Conqueror. I thought all her scenes were awesome.
That Eve Best is her name. That she might be my favorite actresses in the whole show, because she went from kind of being very bitter in that first season to being clearly Rhaenyra's most trusted advisor. She's always just dropping truth bombs left and right. I think she steals every scene she's in. She snaps back to Daemon and stuff. I love that. And then they have the more humanizing side of her when she's like with Corlys, her husband. She's fantastic. I love every scene that she's in. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I also thought it was interesting that they brought in Ulf. It's Ulf?
White, yeah, I was wondering if you bring that up. Ulf, yeah, who we did see in the second episode. Yeah, but they don't name him. So now.
He's the guy walking around with the rat catchers when the rat catchers were hung, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's Ulf, who will be. He's as he said, he claimed he is a dragon seed, which is someone who's a Targaryen bastard, and he called himself that, and he is right. I think it's okay to say he is, and that all the dragon seeds, and there are a lot of them, do play a part in this story. I did think it was funny that he was sort of boasting, and then who walks in?
Himself.
And the look on his face.
That was also what was funny to me in this episode, like, because I don't think this happened in the book, but like basically hiring the bro squad to be all the replacements on the Kingsguard.
Oh, I know. Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Again, we all hate Kristen Cole, but could you imagine being him walking up and then seeing all those fools in like the white armor, like you
hanging around, and they're all talking about going to the brothels. He's like, "Didn't you take a vow of chastity?" That was pretty funny.
Yeah. But then he's there in the next scene, like at the brothels with them all.
I know, exactly. I will say what I really like, again, the political machinations. I think it's really cool because like his brother has done has a million reasons to hate him, right? He's been his whole life, he was overpassed. His brother's an idiot, his older brother, but his brother gets the claim to the throne. He was, hurt by his cousins. He gets, loses an eye. He's always felt kind of down. Now he has the best dragon in the whole kingdom, all this, but he still feels slighted. So he's been secretly, hopefully people picked up on this, he is secretly really trying to drive his brother to do something really dumb. He knew by telling his brother that you can't go out in the field on a dragon, you're too important, that's going to make Aegon want to do that. And that's what he wants him to do. And then you need Larys Strong to come in and kind of be like, no, don't do that, and play the sort of, but he's also playing both sides. So it's interesting to see how easily Aegon is manipulated by everybody around him.
Well, not only that, I also thought that it was a good scene to kind of reinforce like the relationship dynamic. Like Aegon always treated him like a little redheaded stepchild as a child growing up. And even though now he's his number one sword, his top war, him or Kristen Cole, he still thinks him as this just like foolish little child.
And that's why that brothel scene was so good, because the only time you ever see Aemon, vulnerable or being like a real person is in there. And then who comes along, his brother, who's a drunken idiot and like mocks him and goofs around. just again drives that wedge harder, and I'm curious, again, knowing things out in the book, not spoiling anything, how future events will play out. If there's some things which in the book seems like, oh, just tragic accidents or mistakes or whatever, or arguments between these two characters, if that's all a deliberate setup. I'm wondering if they're going to play how that's going to resolve, because they're not enemies in the book or anything like that, but I like how they played it up. It just adds an extra dynamic to the whole relationship and it makes it more interesting.
Yeah, not to that. I mean, like, because George R. R. Martin always talks, or he's not always, but he's mentioned that whereas the books are all like just the recorded tellings of different people, and the show is almost a more accurate telling of the event because you're seeing the event happen.
Right.
So, like, that brothel scene would be something that wouldn't have been recorded for the book, right? So, like, I think that plays very well into the whole thing going on.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
again,
speaking
the
of
writers sort of choose some scenery and add some kind of fun stuff in there.
Yeah. There were a couple of shocking things I remember when they saw. I was like, "Oh, all right."
Oh, well, that was that too. Yeah, I was like, they're going full frontal male nudity. All right, here we go. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, not only that, even right before then,
among other things, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I forgot. Honestly, I was thinking that, like, although violence, of course, is violent, like, they've been pretty tame. The biggest criticism against Game of Thrones was sometimes it's just gratuitous nudity or violence for no reason, just because, hey, it was HBO and we can. This show, I was like, oh, like, they know they don't have to do that stuff for ratings. I still think that's true. However, you are reminded every once in a while, oh yeah, they can and will do whatever they want. So.
But going back to real quick what you said in terms of like setting him up to do something dumb, I'm interested to see now what happens in the next episode. Again, to talk as vaguely as I can, how outcomes result. I'm curious if they show a little bit more detail than what we get in the book. So
exactly. And I don't know if it'll be the next. I think it's the next one, right? Is being directed by Alan Taylor. I'm thinking like, or it's
yeah, I think so.
That. Yeah,
I think it may be.
So that would be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously it ended with. So I thought this was by far the biggest departure that they've had from the books, with Rhaenyra reconnecting with Alicent, which I thought was interesting. I thought it was interesting too that she went all the way to that effort, but then really didn't have a plan or anything to kind of offer. She was just like, "Hey, what up, girl? You want to give up now?" Like,
pretty much. Well, let's go back. So for Mysaria, we did confirm what you and I suspect. She did alert.
Oh yes.
And I'm guessing it would have been nice to see that, but the reason they cut it out was probably it ruined the suspense of whether or not the sneak attack's going to work or not, right? We couldn't cut away to her running and whatever. So I was happy to see that. It was a cool interaction between her and Mysaria and have her figure out what to do. But yeah, the game plan wasn't that great. It was basically going to be like, let's you and I hash this out like a treaty right now. But of course, Rhaenyra's whole strategy was clearly to have Alicent say, okay, you can be queen, which is a bad idea. What I thought was so fascinating about it, again, we are reminded that they are surrounded by men making bad decisions. We saw it with Rhaenyra and her council. It's fight. And she's like, relax, let's think. But what I thought was so fascinating about that scene, it goes from, you see, God, the actress is so good. You see Rhaenyra when Alicent tells her, I am positive he named my son as king. And I can't lie to you, like, straight to your face. And you see that her break, you see her for the first time, she has doubt. She goes, shoot, I might be wrong. My father did forsake me. And then when Alicent says, oh, it's a song of ice and fire, then it flips again. She goes, he was talking about the other Aegon the Conqueror. And then you see Alicent have that moment of realization, like, shoot, I'm wrong. You should be queen. And at that point, you would think that would be the moment where they'd come to an agreement. But Alicent basically says, I have no power. It's too late. She says, these guys are going to war no matter what. You know what Aegon is. You know what Aemon is. You know what Daemon is. This war is happening. There's nothing we can do to stop it. And I love the way that worked because, again, you see these women are on common ground. However, they can't avert this war. And Rhaenyra, at the end of it, says, you can see it in her face, this war is on. I have no more doubts anymore. We're going to war. All in one scene. It was such a well-done scene and exciting because I had no idea what was going to happen. It's not in the books. This is exciting.
Yeah. No, I mean, and like the neck up acting was phenomenal. I mean, just like how you can just tell with their faces and what was going on. Like, yeah, I love it. I mean, like when I first thought about it, I was like, when that was like unraveling, I was like, this is kind of a dumb forced scene. But then like when he speaks, like it gave like it gave Rhaenyra like, no, my claim is just, and it gave her that confidence to walk away. And then with Alicent, you know, she's always like very hesitant and always like wants to do the right thing, and then she was put into doubt. I thought it was very, very, very well done. When it came to like an offer, I was kind of surprised.
I mean, again, I thought the setup wasn't great.
Yeah,
I thought it was a great setup. I was kind of like, "What's her plan? Like, this is a dumb plan." Like, all Alicent had to do was like just run and scream. Like, I don't think Rhaenyra would have stabbed her. You know, like then it's over. Like, you die, you're dead. You know, like,
yeah,
the game's over. The battle's over.
But I thought too, though, like,
so at first I didn't like it, but
as you say, I thought maybe she would come to and be like, "Let's come together here," and then, you know, why don't I pledge Joffrey to Jaehaera, the twin that didn't have the head cut off, or something. But yeah, no. Otherwise, like, no, I agree. I kind of came into it, I was like, this is odd.
Like, what was she offering exactly? What was she offering? Just like this. Hopefully, the realm doesn't bleed, but Alicent doesn't really care. Like, it's gonna happen anyways. It doesn't matter. So, yeah, that was pretty cool. So it was good scene. It was good. I like the way it ended. Again, that's really it opens up with clearly there's a war now. The Brackens and the Blackwoods, they hate each other. You don't need to see the battle. We see they're fighting now, and then it's ended with, you know, after a whole episode of doubt, now it's on. I just thought that was really well framed, beginning and end of the episode. Really well done.
Yeah, agreed. I did. Oh, one other thing too, I was gonna bring up. I was so now that we see. So wait. Baela is the twin that's left. Rhaena went with the kids. So Baela's on her dragon kind of doing reconnaissance, right? She sees Kristen Cole and Gwaine Hightower, and she swoops down them. So I am curious because in the books, Baela is really not involved anytime soon. And even when she does have some part, it's very minor. If she is going to be replacing, because we were talking about the dragon seeds earlier, and kind of the dragons that don't have riders. I do wonder if that's going to help them kind of consolidate the dragons down, or if they just added this part into. I'm assuming like we won't get Sheep Stealer, or we won't get the Cannibal or something.
I mean, it's not even so much the issue with the dragons; it's an issue with the riders, because a lot of the kids are younger. So, you know, we're going to have some serious time jumps. Because in theory, like this whole since the king died, it's only been like really like a couple of weeks, right? It hasn't really been that much time. They're going to have to accelerate some stuff because there are dragon riders in the story that in the show right now, they're like infants, you know, they're like 3 years old or whatever. You're right. I think it's less of an issue with introducing a new dragon. That's easy. Who cares? You don't need an actor for that. It's the CG creation. It's an issue with the characters themselves. It's going to be hard to be like, oh, you know, that 3-year-old kid you saw, this much time has passed. He's now 8 and riding a dragon. Like, that's so crazy, right? You need like a 10-year jump. So I think you're likely in that regard. She'll fill the role of some of those younger dragon riders.
Mm-hmm. The other thing too, I'm kind of curious about is with the show, and even when we have this scene with Alicent confirming that she fucked up what Viserys said, the show is very leaned towards Team Black. And I'm curious, are they going to keep it leaned that way, or are they going to do some stuff to kind of help? I mean, obviously, they cut off the kid's head. No one likes that. But still, even beyond that, since it wasn't Rhaenyra directly involved, everyone knows Daemon's an asshole.
Yeah.
People are still, whenever I listen to podcasts, whenever I talk to people, when we have talked, everyone is still like, I still got to be Team Black. And so I'm kind of curious if they do anything to help kind of shift back a little bit.
Yeah, I think they've been trying. They've been trying to give you more, you know, showing more empathetic side to Aegon and Aemon, right? They're doing that. I think out of necessity, I guess they don't have to. I think they have to make it more even, but maybe they don't. Maybe that's how they want it.
Yeah, and honestly, maybe that will make for some more surprising events to happen coming forward.
Exactly, it's exactly it. But I think at some point, you know, again, if you need to root for somebody, and it's you can't just have people, the viewer, like divided in their household, like you know, like it's not going to be that way. You need to have some sort of guiding like through line, you know. So I think that's kind of how they're going. But I think you sympathize with both the women. The only difference is only one of them is actually fighting for the throne, really. So
yeah. Any Yeah. Any other parting thoughts or last thoughts before we go? I mean, I think next week we're gonna have a lot more to talk about with some of the big events that happen.
I think we are. Yeah, I was gonna bring up the Bayla thing. So it's interesting. We got introduced to her Allison's brother. So that's kind of cool.
Oh, real quick, that I noticed. So, have you ever watched the show Slow Horses?
No.
Okay, so there is a character in the show Slow Horse. Have you even heard of it?
No.
So it's fantastic. There's 3 seasons out. It's on Apple TV. It's about this MI5, like the British spy agency. Like the agents that like kind of mess up, they gotta get sent to like the JV squad, and they're called the Slow Horses. And so it's a show on these. And so, anyways, the actor that plays Gawain Hightower is an actor in Slow Horses, and he plays the identical character that's just like cocky as fuck.
Yeah.
Like, I'm better than you because I'm the man and I'm here and you're
But
there.
he screws up. I like that he screws up. You know, Kristen Cole has to like slap him down and talk some sense to him.
Exactly. And it's Slow Horses. He screws up similarly too.
Nice. I still think also, I don't know how Bayla saw it was Kristen Cole. Like that was someone say, you have some pretty good eyeyesight. She's like, yeah, I do. I was like, oh, that's how they're gonna hand wave that. Because they're showing the clip of like the field, and I'm like, I can't see anything. Like, I don't what you looking at, you know?
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
That reminds me though, since talking about that, I love the scenes between Allison and Kristen Cole because it's like they obviously like haven't, you know, for sake of a better term, banged it out probably recently. And so the tension is just ratchet. Every scene, they're just like, maybe you should just maybe you should do that. Like, no.
Yeah. In the council, and then he asks for a favor, and she's just like doesn't care. Yep. Yeah, that was all well done. I mean, I like any of the scenes. I'm a sucker for the political stuff. Any of the scenes around like the small council stuff, I always like get a kick out of those. So those are fun. But yeah, you know, I mean, I think the slower scenes in general are building characters, but I think we're gonna have less of them. I get that feeling like we're not going to have many of those scenes of people just talking anymore. So, I mean, again, I like those scenes, but I think starting next week, there's going to be a lot more battles and a lot more just reactions. So
I'm with you, right? Like, as much as it's fun to see dragons and, you know, battles and things like that, it's the political machinations that make this show excellent.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. It was a good episode. I liked it better than the second one, I think. Absolutely. And the Harrenhal scenes again. Harrenhal scenes, I kind of want to watch it again.
Oh, I'm definitely going to watch it again before Sunday, for sure.
Harrenhal is cool in general. It's a cool castle. It's got really cool lore. Just watching Cyraxes like land on the top of it, like just talk about where he's flying around, like
is it Caraxes?
Caraxes, sorry, what did I say? Yeah, Caraxes. So when he's like flying around, you know, Harrenhal, like that shot was just so cool. I'm like, oh man, it's a neat castle. I like that they're playing up the supernatural stuff. Yeah, I gotta watch it again. I gotta watch that one again. I don't know. I didn't watch the first 2 episodes second time, but I think this one I'm going to.
Someone said too, and I didn't notice it, but I heard on a podcast that the throne room scene, if you turn up the volume right before that, Daemon is walking towards it, you hear the sound of like people clapping as if it was that very first opening scene. I didn't notice that, but like on the rewatch, I definitely wanted to listen for that.
Oh yeah.
Then he gets there and it's just like dark and empty and raining.
Right. Yeah, that was the whole thing. You know, again, he's expecting to take the castle, and they're like, "No, you got it. It's all yours. We don't care." You know. There was a couple funny lines in that though too, when he's like, you know, Iron Throne. He's like, "It's a big chair with lots of pointy scores." You know. And then, you know, the Castellan there, you know, he wants to be called Your Grace.
Oh yeah,
that was
great callback to Tywin. You know, he who says I am the king is no true king. Like, I loved it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, they leaned back into Daemon just being a complete narcissist. You know, it's kind of cool to see him humbled by whatever the heck's haunting him in the castle. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Thanks everyone for watching. Let us know what you thought of episode 3. We will obviously be here next week for episode 4, which is lining up to be a explosive one, we'll say. So, but otherwise,
there you go.
Check it out. Let us know what you think in the comments, and we'll see you on the next week. Peace out.